Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about natural and quasi-experiments. We call them natural and quasi-experiments because they are not truly randomized. They look like randomized, but in reality they are not. However, they are close enough that we consider they can be treated as randomized experiments. So that's why we call them either natural or quasi-experiments. So the example would be, the treatment is exogenous, right? So like natural disaster, earthquake, right? So if there's an earthquake, and then we probably could say, okay, before and after, this is quite randomly happened, right? Because you didn't choose earthquake. It happened because of nature, right? So you have no control about these sort of randomly occurred event. And for quasi-experiment, for instance, legalizing marijuana will be a new policy in Michigan that's effective in 2018, right? So this is considered as an exogenous treatment, right? So then before and after you have two groups. Before now, the idea is for these quasi-experiments, again, they are not truly randomized, but can be considered as an experiment. I will explain in details later. So let's start with the first methods we use to count these natural or quasi-experiments. The first method is called the regression discontinuity. So in a famous book called Why Nations Fail, The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty, written by Daron Acemoglu and James Robinson. Now, in this country, they try to tackle one fundamental question: is why is one country rich and the other one poor? So, what's the key to a country's prosperity or poverty? So there's several different explanations, right? People would say this is because people in some countries they are more diligent than the other countries, so that's why people work diligently, and in these countries they are rich, and in other countries they are not. But is this the correct explanation? Or people may say, oh, this is because of culture, right? In American, you praise individualism and working ethics, while in some other countries, they tend to be more, take leisure time more and value something other than working ethics. Then maybe that's the reason why they are poor. Or this is just because different geography, right? They are near, they are near nowhere, right? So they don't have large ports, they don't have traffic, they don't have warm weather, so on and so forth. Is this the reason why some countries are richer while the others are poor? Now you can easily find counter arguments about people are different, culture are different, and the geographics are different. So in this book, Why Nations Fail, the authors proposed one interesting case that happens in Nogales in Arizona and the Nogales in Sonora. Sonora is in Mexico, while Arizona is in the United States, right? But they have the same kind of people, same kind of culture, and even same geographic locations. they are so close, yet so different in terms of one is rich and one poor. Let me show you the map. So this is the area called Nogales, right? So this side, the south side is in Mexico, as you can see, while the north side is in United States. And definitely they are the same people, share the same culture, and geographically they are close enough. The only difference in these two areas is whether you are in Mexico or in United States, right? Because this is the borderline between these two countries. Now, we suppose group here and the group here are similar to each other or statistically equivalent, right? Because there's no significant difference in terms of culture, in terms of location, and in terms of weather, etc. Right? They are close to each other, but they have different political systems, so to speak. All right. So the only difference between these two places is the north in United States, the south in Mexico. So we imagine this is kind of some sort of randomization, right? Randomly assign people to the north side and to the south side. Now, this is not truly random, but it happened naturally because then the borderline between these two groups of people. So we suppose this is the only difference because of the political system, right? So the north is rich and the south is poor. Why such huge difference? Is because north is in the United States and the south is in Mexico, and the political institution seemed to be the only difference between these two places. So the authors concluded, right? So the independent variable here, right? The dependent variable can be measured by economic development, per capita GDP, well-being, etc. Right? So a set of economic outcomes, and the major independent variable is coded either as 0 and 1. Right? 0 means Mexico Institute, and 1 means American Institute. Right? So the only difference is because of the political system is different, right? So 0 and 1. So we use this to predict a set of economic outcomes. It turns out that will be significantly different between these two groups. So the method we call this is called regression discontinuity, right? So this is a kind of been breaked, it's discontinued, right? Otherwise, they are actually the same area, same people, same culture, same weather, things like that, right? So the authors use political systems to explain why the North Nogale in Arizona is richer than the South Nogale in Mexico. All right, now let me talk about another method we used for natural or quasi-experiments. This is called difference in difference. Now, this method is quite popular when a new policy been enacted into law and implemented. All right, so here I'm going to introduce you a paper written by Jiahuan Ru from Rutgers University. The title is Performance of Performance-Based Contracting in Human Service, a quasi-experiment. The main idea is what's the performance of performance-based contracting, right? Does performance-based contracting perform well? Now, the background is under Clinton administration, they want to run government like business because the government has been criticized for too large, too slow, and low efficiency, right? So the idea about new public management revolution is, or movement, is try to run government like business. So one of the things government did is to contracting out, right? So you find either nonprofit partners or private contractors to contract out some public services, right? So then you can increase efficiency. So this is the background. But not all the states implemented contract out public service simultaneously, right? So some might implement it while the others still remain the same. So there's two states, Indiana and Michigan. So Jia Huanlu chose these two states because they are close to each other, right? And roughly same, population size and roughly same economic size and some other things, right? So it's not perfect, right? But we suppose the only difference is one area is in Michigan while the other area is in Indiana. However, in the researched time period from 2004 to 2009, Michigan didn't change anything in the vocational rehabilitation program. All right, so this is all like a fee for service, right? You pay a certain amount of fees and you get service. So through the whole period, there's no new policy being introduced. While in Indiana, they introduced the so-called performance-based contracting in 2006. Right, so this is kind of in the middle, right? In the middle, in the 2004, 2006, this is the first period in Indiana. They also adopted fee for service. While after 2006, from 2007, 2008, 2009, they have the performance-based contracting. All right, so now you can see there's two different kind of differences, right? The first difference is before and after introducing performance-based contracting in Indiana. Now the other difference is the difference between Indiana and Michigan, right? So fee-for-service period and performance-based contracting. So in the middle, at the end of 2016, they introduced the performance-based contracting in Indiana, while Michigan remained the same policy through the whole period from 2004 to 2009. All right, so let's summarize it. All right, in Indiana, you have 2004, 2005, 2006. This is all fee-for-service, right? So while same time period, Michigan fee-for-service. Now in 2006, the performance-based contracting policy has been implemented in Indiana. So afterwards, in 2007, 2008, 2009, these three periods are performance-based contracting. While in Michigan, that's still the same period, right? Still the same fee-for-service program. All right, so the first difference is before and after. And the second difference is between Indiana and Michigan. So that's why we call it a difference in difference. So let's check some of the dependent variables. One of the things is called employment outcome. All right, so that basically means whether or not individual's employment status after receiving the service, whether or not they have been employed or not, right? So this is without 0 equals without employment outcome after the service, and 1 means yes with employment outcome after the service. And the independent variable here we have three different things, right? The first is the difference between two states, Michigan and Indiana. Here, Indiana coded as 1 and 0 coded as Michigan. So Michigan is the reference group and Indiana is our treatment group, because in 2006 we introduced the performance-based contracting in Indiana. Then the service area, right? So before that, before 2007, there's no policy change, which means fee for service, right? So this is coded as 0. And after that, you have performance-based contracting, which means yes, right? So this is another independent variable. Then you create an intersection between Indiana and yes, right? So Indiana after 2007, which means in Indiana, where they have the performance-based contracting policy. So that's the interaction term, Indiana service year from 2007 to 2009. So we want to see is this independent variable, the interaction term is statistically significant in terms of predicting employment outcome. So let's take a look, all right? So the first difference, so because the outcome measure, so this is the 0 and the 1, which is nominal, right? So as I said, you are going to use logistic regression, logit, right, instead of normal OLS. But the idea is the same anyway. So Indiana, yes, the difference between Indiana and Michigan is significant, and also service year, right, before and after, this is significant, and also Indiana after introducing performance-based contracting. So they all have positive, significant impact on employment outcomes, right? So which is good, because that confirms performance-based contracting actually gonna increase the performance of service delivery, right, measured by employment outcomes. So this is called difference in difference. First difference between states, second difference before and after the introducing of performance-based contracting. And we create an interaction term to see whether or not this is actually a statistically significant relationship. All right, so here I will leave you an exercise. You can do it all by yourself, right? So how can we use difference in difference to assess the impact of legalizing marijuana in Michigan, right? So I want you to think about how can we use a DID design, and you need to keep these questions in mind. The first thing is, of course, how you're going to measure the outcomes, right? The benefits of legalizing marijuana in Michigan. So are you counting like jobs related to that or tax revenue to the state, something like that, right? So you need to find something that are measurable. The other thing is how you're going to choose a comparison state. It will be ideal to choose a state close enough yet and not haven't legalized marijuana. I'm not sure, Ohio, right? Yeah, so you probably can choose, one state close enough, have same population size, similar economic indicators, things like that. Then think about how you're gonna apply the DID method.